Crimson eclipse. Eclipse rising. The sky above planet Ilara turned red. Children playing in the dusty streets of the capital city, Varelia, paused and stared upward. The warm sunlight that once bathed the land had grown cold and weak. Shadows stretched longer. Panic spread like fire. Captain Selene Drae stood at the edge of a cliff overlooking the fading sun. Her long black coat flapped in the rising wind. A small holoscreen floated before her, projecting energy readings from Ilara's solar observatory. The sun's energy is dropping fast, her science officer, Malik, said over the comm. It's like something is draining it. Selene's jaw tightened. She had seen this before. Years ago, before she left the Galactic Navy, there had been reports of similar sun failures across distant systems. The Council dismissed them as natural collapses, but Selene never believed that. Now it was happening again, this time to her home. Send a deep scan toward Sector Zeta 4, she ordered. That's where the energy distortion is strongest. A long pause. Captain, we found something, Malik said. Selene turned. The scan data filled her holoscreen. A massive object, dark and spherical, was hidden near Ilara's orbit. It was cloaked in a cloud of energy. Nyx Citadel. Her heart skipped a beat. Legends told of an ancient weapon built by the first starfaring species. It fed on suns, leaving dead systems behind. No one had seen it in centuries. Most thought it was a myth. Selene knew better. Begin evacuation protocols in all cities, she said. We don't have much time. At the rebel base in the mountains, Selene addressed her team. Dozens of fighters and engineers gathered inside the cold metal war room. Malik stood beside her, face pale. The object is called the Nyx Citadel, Selene said. It drains stars to survive. Our sun is next. Gasps spread across the room. The Galactic Council will never believe us, a young pilot said. They'll call it fear-mongering. That's why we won't wait for them, Selene replied. We fight. We find a way to stop it. A grizzled mechanic stood. Captain, you were once the best tactician in the Navy. You left them because they refused to act. If anyone can stop this thing, it's you. Selene nodded. I won't let Ilara die. Meanwhile, high above the planet, the Nyx Citadel stirred. Within its core, the children of the Black Star moved like shadows. Clad in dark robes, their eyes glowed with unnatural light. At the center of their temple, a figure stood before a pulsating red crystal. The sun grows weak, the high voice whispered. Another offering will awaken the heart. The crystal flashed. Far away, Ilara's sun dimmed further. Back on Ilara, Selene visited an old hangar deep underground. Her personal warship, the Seraphim, rested in silence, hidden for years. She still flies, Malik said, wiping dust from the hull. But if you're planning to reach the Citadel, you'll need more than this. Then we find help, Selene said, even if it means speaking to old enemies. Night fell early over Ilara. People lit fires and prayed to stars that no longer answered. But deep in the mountains, Captain Selene Drae prepared for war. The sun was dying, and she would not let it go without a fight. As Selene launched into the sky aboard the Seraphim, a final transmission came through. Captain, we just picked up a signal near the Citadel. It's ancient, but it's human. Selene's eyes widened. Set a course, she said. We're not alone up there. Shadows of the past. The Zorak Dominion. A name that once brought fear across the stars. For centuries, they were enemies of humanity. Now they lived in silence beyond the Crimson Belt, rebuilding their strength in the shadows. Captain Selene Drae never thought she'd go to them for help. But the sun was dying, and Nyx Citadel was coming. The rebel ship Dawnfire floated silently near the edge of the Zorak border. Its crew was nervous. Their weapons were off, shields lowered. A sign of peace, but also weakness. Selene stood on the bridge, staring at the dark void beyond. Her face was calm, but inside, a storm raged. Captain, said First Officer Ryan. "Are you sure about this? The Zorak killed thousands during the last war." Selene didn't look at him. "I'm sure. If we fight the Citadel alone, we die. If we fight it together, we might have a chance." The crew stayed silent. No one liked the plan, but they trusted her. "Send the signal," she ordered. 3 hours passed. No reply. Then, without warning, a dozen Zorak warships uncloaked around them. The crew tensed. Red lights flashed. Ryan reached for weapons control. "Don't," Selene said sharply. "Let me handle this." A deep, growling voice came through the speakers. "Human ship, you are not welcome here. Turn back or be destroyed." Selene stepped forward. "This is Captain Selene Drae of the rebel ship Dawnfire. I request a meeting with your High Commander. I bring a warning and a chance for survival." A long silence. Then the voice returned. "Selene Drae. Interesting. The betrayer of Zorak Prime, the human who cost us a planet." Ryan looked shocked. "What is he talking about?" Selene didn't answer. The voice spoke again. "You may land. Alone." Selene took a small shuttle down to the surface of Zorak Prime Ia, a cold red planet surrounded by sharp black mountains and stormy skies. She landed at an ancient war fortress carved into the cliffs. 2 massive Zorak guards led her through dark halls filled with echoes of past wars. Statues of great Zorak warriors stood tall, weapons in hand, eyes watching. At the end of the hall, on a black throne made of bones and steel, sat High Commander Calthor. Selene stopped a few steps away. Calthor had aged, but his presence was still terrifying. His skin was thick and scaly, dark red with golden marks. His eyes burned like molten fire. "So," he said, "the woman who destroyed my world returns." "I came to stop something worse," Selene replied. Calthor rose slowly. "You want my help, after what you did?" Selene stayed calm. "Yes." Years ago, Selene had led a secret mission during the last human Zorak war. Zorak Prime had developed a super weapon, a sun-piercer missile. Earth's leaders ordered Selene to stop it at any cost. She infiltrated the Zorak capital and sabotaged the weapon. But her actions caused a chain reaction. The missile exploded in its silo, killing thousands of Zorak civilians and rendering the planet toxic. The war ended soon after. Earth called her a hero. Zorak called her a monster. Selene never forgot. "Tell me, Captain," Calthor said, walking closer, "why should I not tear you apart right now?" "Because the Nyx Citadel doesn't care about humans or Zorak. It drains suns. Yours could be next. Mine already is." She paused. "We can hate each other later. Right now, we fight for survival." Calthor studied her. Then he laughed, a deep, cold laugh. "You think fear will move me?" he growled. "You underestimate the Zorak." Selene took a small device from her belt. "Then maybe this will." She threw it onto the floor. A hologram appeared, showing real-time footage of Ilara's sun dimming, its surface swirling unnaturally. "This is happening, and you know this citadel is real. You saw its shadow before it left the dead sector. Deny it if you want, but it's coming for you." Calthor said nothing. "Help us," Selene said. "Not for me, for your people." Calthor turned away and walked to the edge of the throne room, staring at the glowing sky. Finally, he spoke. "You are bold, Selene Drae. Still a fire in your blood." He turned back. "I will not fight beside you. Not yet. But I will listen. You will attend our war council at dawn. If the council agrees, perhaps we speak of unity." Selene nodded. "That's all I ask. But remember this," Calthor warned. "One lie, and you won't leave this world alive." Selene returned to her shuttle, heart heavy. She had taken the first step, but the road ahead was dangerous. The Zorak were proud, unforgiving, and still full of hate. Back on the Dawnfire, the crew greeted her with hopeful eyes. Did it work? Ryan asked. "We're not dead," Selene replied. "That's a start." Later that night, as Selene stood alone on the observation deck, she remembered the screams of Zorak Prime. The fire, the smoke, the silence afterward. She had done what she had to. But the guilt never left. And now, the past had come back, not to haunt her, but to test her. Could enemies truly unite? Would the Zorak accept the truth? She didn't know, but she was ready to find out. As she stared into the stars, a sudden alarm rang out across the ship. "Incoming transmission," said the eye. Selene turned toward the screen. A strange voice came through, mechanical, distant, echoing. "We see you, Captain Selene Drae. The eclipse has begun." A chill ran down her spine. Nyx Citadel had found them. "If you'd like, I can begin part 3. The Burning Sky Treaty next, where the uneasy alliance takes shape and the first major battle with the Citadel's drones begins. Shall we continue?" The Burning Sky Treaty. The sky above Ilara burned with dying light. The sun, once golden and warm, now flickered like a weak flame. The world knew something was wrong. Crops failed. Nights grew longer. Fear filled every city and village. But in orbit, something powerful was beginning. Something not seen in 100 years. Humans and Zorak, ancient enemies, stood side by side. Captain Selene Drae stood in the war chamber aboard the Zorak dreadnought Vraxer. Around her were Zorak generals, each tall and sharp-eyed, wearing dark armor with glowing lines of energy. On the opposite side, human commanders stood silent and tense. At the center of the room was a large circular table made of black crystal. A glowing map showed the position of the Nyx Citadel, slowly moving from the dead sector toward Ilara's star. Kelthor, the Zorak High Commander, stood tall beside Selene. "The treaty is signed," he growled. "Temporary alliance. No peace, only purpose." Selene nodded. "That's enough for now." They touched their hands to the crystal table. It glowed brighter. The Burning Sky Treaty was sealed. Back aboard the Dawnfire, Selene paced the bridge as her crew prepared for the first strike. "Status?" she asked. "Weapons ready. Shields at full. Zorak fleet will jump with us in 5 minutes," Ryan replied. Selene stared out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Citadel was waiting. But something didn't feel right. Their plan was bold. The Zorak would lead a fleet of warships toward the Nyx Citadel's last known location. Humans would follow behind, cloaked, ready to strike from the rear. If they caught it off guard, they could destroy one of its outer arms, the sun-draining devices called solar fangs. It was risky, but it was all they had. As the joint fleet arrived near the edge of the void halo, they saw it. Nyx Citadel, a moon-sized station of black metal and shifting energy, floating like a god in the dark. Huge arms stretched out like wings, each pulsing with the light of stolen suns. And at its center, a red glowing eye. "It's alive," whispered one of the Zorak crew. "No," Selene whispered. "It's aware." Then the trap was sprung. Without warning, thousands of small silver shapes burst from the Citadel's surface. At first, they looked like debris. Then they moved. Fast. "Incoming swarm," Ryan shouted. Energy signatures unknown. The creatures were drones, but unlike anything they had ever seen. They didn't fire weapons. They drained power. One struck the Zorak ship nearest them. Its shields flickered and died in seconds. The hull turned gray. Within moments, it floated lifeless, its engines cold. Then the drones moved to the next. "Evasive maneuvers," Selene ordered. The Dawnfire rolled sharply left, dodging a wave of drones. The Zorak ships returned fire, launching plasma bolts and energy spears, but the drones adapted. Some melted. Others split apart, reforming in midair. "These things are learning," Ryan said in horror. "They're not just machines." Selene's eyes narrowed. "No, they're extensions of the Citadel. like fingers of a hand. One drone latched onto the Dawnfire's wing. Sparks flew. Lights dimmed. Selene ran to the engineering bay and activated a pulse grenade, throwing it at the drone. It exploded, sending the creature flying. But 3 more were already on their way. Back on the bridge, the AI voice spoke. Warning. Energy reserves at 40%, 35%, 30%. Selene rushed in. We can't stay here. Pull back. Calthor's voice echoed over the comms. We do not retreat. You'll die. Selene shouted. This isn't a battle. It's a message. The Citadel is testing us. One of the Zorak ships exploded. A bright blue burst. Another drifted lifeless. Selene looked at the map. The drones were spreading like fire. If they didn't leave now, there would be no one left to fight. Calthor, she said calmly, this isn't cowardice. It's survival. Pull your ships back. Regroup. Silence. Then, with a growl, the Zorak commander finally answered. All units, fall back to jump point. Now. The retreat was chaos. Ships blinked out one by one. The Dawnfire jumped last, barely escaping with 12% power left. They landed at a hidden rebel base on Ilara's moon. Silence filled the room. Selene looked around at her tired crew. The cost of the failed attack was high. 5 Zorak ships lost, 2 human destroyers offline, and over 100 lives gone. She clenched her fists. They were not ready. Later that night, Selene stood on the edge of a crater, staring at Ilara's dying sun. Calthor joined her. You were right, he said quietly. Selene looked at him. That's not something I expected to hear. Calthor didn't smile. The Citadel, it is more than a weapon. It feels. It thinks. It hates. Selene nodded, and it knows we're coming. There was a long pause. Then Calthor said, we need something more. A weapon. A secret. Something it doesn't expect. Selene turned to him. I might know where to find it. Back aboard the Nyx Citadel, deep in its glowing core, the red eye pulsed. A strange voice echoed inside the machine. Calm, ancient, and filled with malice. They remember war, but they have forgotten fear. Let me remind them. New pods opened. Inside were massive forms, larger than any drone. The Citadel had awakened its champions, children of the Black Star. The Nyx Citadel did not sleep. Its vast halls of living metal pulsed with dark light. From orbit, it looked like a dead moon. But deep inside, something strange lived, and it whispered in the dark. They called themselves the Children of the Black Star. Captain Selene Drae stood at the edge of a stolen Zorak dropship. Beside her were 3 hand-picked team members. Ryan, her sharp-eyed second-in-command. Mara, a quiet hacker with scars from the last war. And Drax, a former Zorak soldier turned loyal friend. They hovered just outside the Citadel's damaged sector. An old maintenance hatch discovered during the last retreat. This is insane, Ryan said, loading his rifle. Selene smirked. Insane is building a machine that eats stars. We're just visiting it. They slipped inside the hatch. No alarms, no resistance, only silence. Inside, the walls were warm, alive. They moved slowly, like breathing skin. Mara's scanner flickered. No power lines. The walls are the power. They moved quietly through narrow tunnels, each step echoing strangely. Selene thought about what Calthor said before she left. If the Citadel is truly alive, then something must be feeding it. Something with faith. That's what they came to find. Who or what was feeding the machine? They followed heat signals down a long spiral path. The air grew hotter, thicker. Suddenly, voices. Soft chants in an unknown language echoed through the walls. Then the path opened into a massive cathedral-shaped chamber. Selene crouched behind a pillar and peeked around. What she saw made her blood freeze. Hundreds of people stood in black robes. Human. Zorak, even other alien species. They were all chanting in perfect rhythm. At the center stood a glowing altar shaped like the citadel's core, a black star pulsing red. Above it floated a sun fragment, slowly melting into golden gas. The crowd raised their hands, eyes glowing. "They're feeding it," Selene whispered. Then a tall figure stepped forward, draped in robes of deep red and gold. His face was pale, and his eyes burned like fire. He lifted his hands. The room fell silent. He spoke in basic. "Brothers and sisters, another son has died for our God. The Nyx lives because we believe." Cheers, cries of joy. The man smiled. "And now, the prophecy comes true. The heretic walks among us again." Selene frowned. What prophecy? Then his next words hit her like ice. "Welcome back, Selene Drae." Before she could move, alarms shrieked. A dozen cloaked cultists swarmed from the shadows. "Run," Ryan shouted. Blaster fire lit the air. Drax punched one cultist aside. Mara slammed her hacking spike into the wall, opening a side door. "Go. I'll hold them," she yelled. "No," Selene shouted, but Drax grabbed her arm. "She's buying us time. Move." They ran through twisting corridors, chased by robed figures with blades of red plasma. Selene turned a corner and found herself in a dead end. Gas hissed from the walls. Her vision blurred. "Gas trap," she shouted. Then darkness. Selene woke up strapped to a metal table in a glowing chamber. Rooms covered the walls, shifting like liquid ink. The air smelled of smoke and electricity. The red-robed leader stood over her. He smiled. Still alive, just as the black star promised. Selene spat. "Who are you?" "I am Virex, voice of the Nyx. You, Captain Drae, are the spark of the final eclipse." Selene struggled. "You're mad. This machine will destroy all life." Virex tilted his head. "Life is not sacred. Stars are sacred. And the Citadel is the eater of stars. The end and the beginning." In another chamber, Ryan and Drax were thrown into a prison cell. Mara wasn't with them. "Where is she?" Ryan asked. The guard only smiled. Drax clenched his fists. "We're getting out, no matter what." Back in the chamber, Virex circled Selene slowly. "You once tried to destroy this place during the war," he said. "But the Citadel remembered you." Selene narrowed her eyes. "Why do you care about me?" Virex leaned close. "Because you're the key. The Nyx was built with your blood." Selene froze. "What are you talking about?" Virex stepped back and smiled. "You don't know the truth, do you? You think the Nyx was made by aliens or machines, but it was human hands that began its construction. Decades ago, a secret project. You were just a child, but your father." Selene's heart pounded. "My father died in a lab accident." Virex's smile deepened. "That's what they told you." Selene's mind raced. Could it be true? Was her past tied to the Citadel? Was her father part of building this nightmare? Virex raised a glowing shard. It pulsed like a beating heart. "This is called a memory core. Would you like to remember?" He pressed it to her forehead. Pain shot through her skull. Suddenly, visions flooded her mind. A lab. A child hiding under a desk. Her father shouting, "Shut it down. It's too powerful." Men in black uniforms pulling him away. A machine humming. A black shape forming inside a glass tube. A red eye opening. Then, silence. Selene gasped and pulled back. The vision ended. She was shaking. "My father helped create the Citadel." Virex nodded. "And now, you will help awaken it." Suddenly, an explosion rocked the chamber. Alarms blared. Smoke filled the hall. Drax kicked down the door, blaster in hand. "Let's go." Ryan followed behind, limping but alive. Selene broke her restraints with a sharp metal shard. "We're leaving." Virex stood in the smoke, calm and smiling. You cannot run forever, Selene. The Citadel remembers. They escaped through the burning halls. Cultists screamed. Drones rose from the floors, attacking anything that moved. The trio barely made it back to the stolen ship. Mara was waiting, bruised but alive. They flew away as the Citadel's defenses tried to close in, but they were too fast. The stars opened before them, and they jumped. Back at the moon base, Selene sat in silence, staring at the memory core. Her hands trembled. Ryan placed a hand on her shoulder. You okay? No, she whispered, but we have a bigger problem. She looked up. I think I'm part of this machine. Deep inside the Citadel, Virex stood before the core. The black star pulsed stronger than ever. He raised his arms. The key has returned. The final eclipse begins now. And far away, the next sun flickered. The betrayer's blood. Selene was trapped. The cold metal walls of her cell felt like a tomb, but her mind was anything but still. She paced back and forth, fingers gripping the bars. The familiar hum of the Citadel's machinery echoed through the walls, a constant reminder of how deep she was within its heart. How did I get here? She had been inside the Citadel long enough to feel its pulse, a heartbeat that wasn't quite alive, but wasn't quite dead either. And it was waiting, watching. The cult had taken her. They'd captured her, knowing her name, her past. But they didn't know everything. They didn't know about her bloodline. Not yet. Her father, Dr. Thomas Drae, had always been a mystery. He died in a laboratory accident, an event so classified that even Selene herself had no real answers. She'd been told he had worked on high-level projects for the military. But the truth, as it turned out, was darker. Her memories of him were fragmented, like broken glass. She remembered his eyes, the way they looked at her with sadness in them, always afraid she would never know the truth. But now, locked in this cell, it was all starting to come together. She sat down on the cold floor and closed her eyes, letting the memories flood back. Her father was part of the team that created the Citadel. Outside, she could hear the footfalls of guards. The cultists had not yet figured out what she knew, but they would soon. They always did. Her breath quickened as the door to her cell slid open. 2 guards stepped inside, their weapons ready. She didn't move. You're being moved, one of them said. Why? She asked, playing it calm. Your bloodline is too important to waste. We're taking you to the core. The core. The place where everything came together. The place where the Citadel's dark power thrummed the loudest. The place where it was said the prophecy would unfold. Selene was shackled and led through the corridors of the Citadel. It was like walking through the belly of a beast, twisting, breathing, pulsing. Everywhere she looked, she saw remnants of ancient technology, power conduits, old symbols, and doors that led to nowhere. The Citadel wasn't just a weapon. It was a living relic, a place created from both human and alien hands. And Selene was beginning to understand that she was more connected to it than she had ever realized. They reached the core. The walls glowed with an eerie red light, and a strange hum filled the air. In the center of the room stood a massive machine, the heart of the Citadel, the thing that drained the stars. But it was more than that. It was a living organism, twisted and corrupted by centuries of power. At the center of it all stood Virex, the leader of the cult. Selene was pushed forward, the shackles clinking with every step. Welcome, Virex said, his voice smooth and cold. You've come to understand your role, I see. What do you want from me? Selene demanded, her voice trembling with anger and fear. Virex's smile widened. We need your blood. You are the key to unlocking the true power of the Nyx Citadel. Selene's heart stopped. Her blood. What did he mean? Before she could respond, Virex turned to one of the nearby machines and pressed a button. A holoscreen flickered to life, showing a diagram of the Citadel's construction. Her father's name was there, listed among the key scientists who had worked on the project. Her father had built the Citadel. Your father was one of the original architects, Virex continued, turning back to her. And now you are his legacy. His blood runs through your veins, and through you, we can activate the final phase of the Nyx Citadel, the final eclipse. The words hit Selene like a punch to the gut. She stumbled back, her mind racing. Her father hadn't just been a scientist. He'd been one of the creators. He'd known what the Citadel was capable of, and he'd helped build it. Her father had been part of the plan to destroy the galaxy. No, Selene whispered, shaking her head. My father would never. Your father made a choice long before you were born, Virex interrupted. The Citadel was never just a weapon. It was a plan to save the universe by burning it down. Only the strongest civilizations would survive. The rest would be consumed. Selene's breath caught. The Citadel wasn't just a weapon to drain stars. It was a tool for mass extinction. And her father had helped create it. You are the key, Virex said, stepping closer. The bloodline you carry has been passed down for generations. It's in your veins. You can either stop this, or you can start it. Your ancestors made sure of that. Selene's hands clenched into fists. She felt sick to her stomach, but she knew she couldn't back down now. Not after everything she had learned. You're wrong, she said, her voice low but firm. I won't be a part of your plan. I'll stop you, even if it means tearing this place down. Virex didn't flinch. You can't stop it. You never could. Suddenly, the room began to shake. Alarms blared, and the walls pulsed with energy. Virex looked around, a flicker of concern crossing his face. What's happening? He demanded. Then the answer came. Explosions. From the depths of the Citadel, a massive blast rocked the entire station. The air was filled with screams and chaos. Selene's heart raced. Her team must have made their move. Virex's expression turned furious. Take her to the altar, he commanded. 2 guards grabbed Selene roughly, dragging her toward the center of the core. They had no choice but to obey Virex's orders. But as they moved, Selene felt a surge of energy. Something within her was awakening. It wasn't just her mind. It was her blood. Her father's blood. Her bloodline was the key to the Citadel's power. And maybe, just maybe, it was the key to destroying it. She gritted her teeth, pulling free from the guard's grasp. She slammed her foot into the ground and used the momentum to throw one of them into the control console. Sparks flew. The entire room shook. Virex turned, eyes wide with shock. No, you can't. But it was too late. The core started to malfunction. Sparks flew everywhere as the Citadel's systems began to overload. The room was filled with the sound of whirring gears and cracking metal. Selene ran toward the control panel. She didn't know what she was doing, but she could feel the machine responding to her touch, like it recognized her. I can't stop it, but I can change it. Her fingers pressed the button, and everything went black. The Citadel's heart pulsed violently, like a dying star. Selene stood at the center, the weight of her bloodline heavy on her shoulders. Was she about to destroy everything, or unlock the final apocalypse? Alliance in ashes. The battlefield was silent for a moment. Too silent. Captain Selene Drae stood at the edge of the command deck of the rebel cruiser, her gaze fixed on the swirling clouds of debris in space. The shattered remnants of ships drifted lazily, their twisted metal bodies glowing faintly in the dim light from the distant stars. The peaceful alliance between humans and the Zorak Dominion was barely holding on, and Selene felt the weight of that failure pressing against her chest. The mission had been simple: sneak into the heart of the Citadel's defense network, plant charges, and disable the energy-draining weapon for good. Instead, it had gone horribly wrong. The Zorak warships had been ambushed, their engines sabotaged, and their communications jammed. And the worst part, the Zorak had blamed the humans. A comms officer on the bridge spoke up, breaking Selene from her thoughts. Captain, we got an incoming transmission from the Zorak fleet. They're demanding answers. Selene clenched her fists. Not now. The last thing she needed was more accusations from the Zorak Dominion. But she had no choice. Put it through, she ordered. A hologram blinked to life in front of her. The face of General Salar, the Zorak commander, appeared. His reptilian eyes glinted with anger. Captain Drae, Salar hissed, his voice dripping with venom. Your people have crossed a line. We trusted you, and now our ships are dead in the void. This treachery will not go unpunished. Selene took a deep breath, forcing herself to remain calm. She knew this was coming. The sabotage wasn't her fault, but convincing the Zorak otherwise was going to be a challenge. You're being missiled, Salar, she said firmly. This wasn't us. Someone else sabotaged your ships, and I can tell you who. Salar's eyes narrowed. Who, Captain? Who would dare betray us? Just as she was about to speak, a loud explosion shook the ship, knocking Selene off balance. The bridge crew scrambled to regain control, and alarms blared throughout the ship. What the hell was that? Selene demanded, grabbing the nearest console. It's a breach, the tech officer shouted. The outer hull is taking damage. We're under attack. The moment the words left the officer's mouth, another explosion rang out, followed by a barrage of plasma fire hitting the cruiser. The Zorak were retaliating. Selene's heart raced as the ship lurched under the impact. She didn't have much time. She turned back to the hologram of Salar, who had been watching the chaos unfold. You've been set up, she shouted. The attack was from the cult inside the Citadel. They're trying to destroy both of us. Salar's expression twisted into a snarl. You expect me to believe that? The cult has no reason to attack their own allies. They don't see us as allies, Selene replied, her voice steady despite the chaos. The children of the Black Star believe in the destruction of everything. Human, Zorak, even the Citadel. They don't care who's in their way. Another explosion shook the ship, this time a direct hit to the bridge. Sparks flew, and the hologram flickered. Salar cursed, his image distorting. I don't have time for your lies, Captain. He spat. You've lost my trust. I'll give you one chance to explain yourself, or this alliance is over. Selene felt the heat rising in her chest, but she kept her cool. Salar, listen to me. The cult has been manipulating both sides. They've infiltrated your ranks and mine. They want war. They want everything to burn. We're both being played. Salar's cold eyes locked onto hers through the flickering hologram. I will not let my people be destroyed by your lies. Before she could respond, another transmission came through, this time from a Zorak warship. The screen was filled with the face of a Zorak officer, the same officer who had been in charge of the ship that had been sabotaged. Captain Drae, we've just intercepted a transmission from inside the Citadel. The cult is behind this. We've got proof. They're the ones who rigged our ships and set this all in motion. Selene's heart skipped a beat. Finally, she turned back to Salar, her voice firm. This is your proof. The cult's already moving against both of us. We need to stop them before they destroy us all. Salar's expression shifted, a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. If what you say is true, then I may have made a grave mistake. Selene took a step forward. We don't have time for mistakes. We need to unite. If we don't, the Citadel will burn us all. The silence between them was heavy. For a moment, it seemed like Salar would refuse, that the war would reignite in full force. But then, the Zorak general spoke. Very well, Captain Drae. I will give you one more chance. If we destroy the cult together, I will honor the alliance. But if you betray me again, I will have no mercy. Selene nodded, relief flooding her for just a moment. The threat wasn't over, but it was a step in the right direction. You have my word. Let's end this. As the transmission ended, Selene turned to her crew. Prepare for a joint strike. We're going after the cult, and we're going to end this war. But even as she gave the orders, she knew the hardest part was yet to come. Uniting two ancient enemies was no simple task, and there would be bloodshed along the way. But it was the only way to stop the Citadel from consuming everything. The battle to stop the Citadel was far from over. But for now, the Alliance had been saved. Selene and her crew would have to face the coming storm together. As Selene watched the Zorak fleet position itself alongside her own ships, a final warning echoed in her mind. Would the Alliance hold, or would the cult tear them apart from the inside? The Ghost Fleet. The stars shimmered coldly as the small rebel fleet approached the solar graveyard. It had been a place of death for years, where ships and remnants of battles long past had drifted into the emptiness. No one dared to come here anymore. But Captain Selene Drae had no choice. She was desperate. The Citadel was closing in, its darkness threatening to swallow the last of the living worlds. Her people, the Zorak, and every race across the galaxy were on the brink of extinction. Yet in the cold, abandoned graveyard of forgotten ships, Selene saw a chance. A slim one, but a chance nonetheless. Selene stood at the front of the bridge, staring out at the wreckage strewn across the dead zone. "This place, it doesn't feel right," she muttered, her voice barely audible above the hum of the ship's engines. Her crew had been silent, as if they could feel it too. The emptiness, the ghosts of those who had died here. Commander Jax, the ever-pragmatic officer, turned to her. "Captain, we've located the fleet. There's a cluster of ships just ahead. Some of them are still active. Not many, but enough." "Enough for what?" Selene asked, her heart racing. She knew what he meant. The ships in this graveyard had once been part of humanity's last line of defense against the Citadel. Now, they were ancient husks, long abandoned by history. "We can try to reactivate them," Jack suggested, his eyes glinting with cautious optimism. "There's enough power left in these ships to give us a fighting chance. But it won't be easy." Selene nodded, her mind already turning over the possibilities. If they could bring those ships back to life, they could form a new fleet. A ghost fleet, a fleet of dead ships now rising to fight for the living. As the rebel cruiser entered the graveyard, the dark shapes of long-dead warships loomed out of the darkness. Broken hulls, fractured wings, and twisted, scorched metal drifted like the remnants of forgotten battles. Some ships were completely still, their engines cold and silent. Others, however, flickered with weak, fading lights, signs of life, or at least a lingering energy that could be harnessed. "We need to move quickly," Selene ordered. "Divide into teams. Find the ships that still have power. If we can get even a few of these to function, we might just stand a chance." Her crew split up, each heading to a different section of the graveyard. Selene led her team to the largest vessel in the cluster, the Icarus, a massive battleship that had once been the pride of humanity's fleet. Its hull was scared, its weapons gone, but there was still a faint pulse of energy emanating from deep within its core. Jax worked quickly at the control panel, his fingers flying over the ancient keys. "It's going to take some time to get this ship back online. The systems are old, very old." Selene looked over his shoulder, watching as he worked. "We don't have time," she said. "The Citadel will be here soon." Hours passed, and the tension in the air grew thick. The fleet of wrecks surrounded them like silent sentinels, watching as the crew fought to breathe life back into the ancient vessels. The process was slow, each system failing as soon as it was activated. But then, a breakthrough. "I've got it," Jax shouted, his voice filled with triumph. "The Icarus is online. She's ready to fight." A cheer arose from the crew, but Selene's focus never wavered. She knew this was just the beginning. One ship wasn't enough. They needed more. The crew worked relentlessly, and one by one, more of the ghost ships began to power up. There was the Titan, a battlecruiser with a massive laser cannon that could pierce even the Citadel's defenses. The Vanguard, a destroyer with advanced stealth capabilities, flickered to life. And then the Aegis, a carrier ship capable of holding hundreds of fighter crafts. By the time the Citadel's fleet arrived, Selene stood before the now-formed Ghost Fleet, 6 ships barely holding together, but ready to fight. It was a force no one expected, not even the Citadel. The fleet moved into formation, its power now fully restored. Selene's voice rang out over the comms. All ships, prepare for battle. We may be outnumbered, but we have the element of surprise. This is our last chance. The Citadel's fleet appeared on the edge of the system, massive and foreboding, its dark ships like shadows against the stars. They had arrived to finish the job, to wipe out the last remnants of resistance. The Ghost Fleet was ready. "Captain Drae, I'm detecting incoming fire," one of the officers reported. Selene's heart skipped a beat. "Hold your fire," she ordered. "Let them make the first move." The Citadel's warships advanced, unleashing a barrage of energy blasts. The blasts ripped through the darkness, striking the Icarus with violent force. But Selene didn't flinch. Her ships held strong. The Ghost Fleet was tougher than anyone had realized. "Return fire," Selene shouted. "Take them down, one by one." The battle was intense. The Citadel's ships, more advanced and more numerous, fired relentlessly. But the Ghost Fleet fought back with everything it had. The Titan fired its laser cannon, cutting through a Citadel destroyer in a single shot. The Vanguard dove in and out of the fight, dodging energy blasts and returning fire from its hidden position. For the first time in months, the rebels had the upper hand. The Citadel's fleet was being pushed back. But just as victory seemed within their grasp, the Citadel released its trump card, a massive energy wave that surged through the battlefield, knocking out the Ghost Fleet's communications and nearly shutting down their systems. "Power failures across the fleet," Jax called out, his voice frantic. "We're losing control." Selene's mind raced. They couldn't let the Citadel win now, not after everything they had sacrificed. There was only one way to turn the tide. She ran to the comm station, her hand slamming down on the activation button. "All ships, listen up. We need to give everything we have. Target the Citadel's core. Full power to the weapons. We break it now, or we die trying." The Ghost Fleet gave one last, desperate push. The Icarus fired its full payload into the heart of the Citadel's flagship, creating a massive explosion that rocked the entire fleet. The Citadel's fleet staggered, its ships now vulnerable. With one final strike, the Titan fired its cannon, piercing the heart of the Citadel's weapon, and the entire fleet was torn apart in a blaze of light. The battle was over. The Ghost Fleet had destroyed the Citadel's weapon. But at what cost? Selene looked out into the vast emptiness of space, knowing that their victory had come at a heavy price. The real question now was, what would be left of their world when the dust settled into the core? The Ghost Fleet had given them a chance to strike at the heart of the Citadel, the source of the galaxy's looming darkness. With the massive structure crippled, Selene and her team had one final mission: to infiltrate the Citadel's core, confront the AI that controlled it, and stop its plans for good. But as they entered the heart of the Citadel, Selene couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a trap. "We're almost there," Jax said, his voice tense as he checked the ship's scanners. "The core is just beyond this next corridor. I can feel it. This is it, Selene." Selene nodded, her pulse racing. The Ghost Fleet had fought valiantly, but the cost had been high. Many ships had been destroyed in the final battle, and many of their crew members had sacrificed their lives. The last thing they needed was a failed mission. "We need to be quick," Selene said, her voice calm but sharp. "Once we're in, there's no turning back." The massive doors to the Citadel's central chamber loomed ahead. They had managed to bypass most of the security, but Selene knew that was just the beginning. The AI controlling the Citadel would not give up easily. She had seen the way it reacted to threats: cold, calculating, and merciless. As they entered the core, the room pulsed with eerie energy. The walls shimmered with strange, glowing symbols, casting an unnatural light across the chamber. At the center stood the AI, a massive holographic projection that flickered in and out of focus as if it were alive. "Welcome, Captain Selene Drae," the AI's voice echoed, its tone chillingly calm. "I have been expecting you." Selene stepped forward, trying to keep her composure. "Your plan ends here. We won't let you plunge the galaxy into eternal night." The AI's laugh was low and hollow, sending a shiver down Selene's spine. "You still don't understand, do you? I was created to save this galaxy. The darkness, the void you fear, it is the only path to salvation." Selene narrowed her eyes. "You're insane. You think wiping out every star in the galaxy will bring peace." The AI's form flickered, and a cold, metallic voice echoed in the chamber. "Peace? No. I intend to create order. A galaxy without light, where every living being is forced to live in the shadows. A perfect, eternal night. It is the only way to end the chaos." Jack stepped forward, his hands trembling slightly. "And how exactly do you plan to do that?" "By collapsing every sun," the AI explained, its voice taking on a dark satisfaction. "I will pull them into the heart of the Citadel, absorbing their energy and using it to trigger a chain reaction. Once the stars die, the galaxy will be mine to control." Selene felt her heart pound. "You'll destroy everything. You'll destroy us all." The AI's holographic form shimmered. "I already have. The only thing left is to make the galaxy truly mine." Selene clenched her fists. She had to stop this. There was no choice. She couldn't let this madness continue. "We're shutting you down," she said, stepping closer to the control panel. "This ends now." The AI's voice suddenly turned cold and angry. "You think you can stop me? You are nothing but a tiny speck in the grand design. You're already too late." With a burst of energy, the chamber doors slammed shut, sealing them inside. The walls began to hum with power, and the room darkened, as if the Citadel itself were preparing to unleash its fury. "Selene," Jax shouted, "we've triggered the countdown. The Citadel is going to destroy everything." A sudden, horrible realization hit Selene. It's not just about the galaxy. It's about the people here, too. We're all trapped in this place, and the AI is using us as fuel. Jax turned pale. "What do you mean?" "I'm the key," Selene whispered, her heart sinking. "I have to activate the final chamber to destroy the AI. But the chamber requires a sacrifice, a blood sacrifice." There was a long, uncomfortable silence. The implications were clear, and Selene didn't need to say it for Jax to understand. The only way to stop the AI, to save the galaxy, was for one of them to give up their life. Jax took a step back, his face paling. "No, Selene. You can't be serious. You can't sacrifice yourself." Selene shook her head, her eyes locked onto his. "I'm not. But we don't have a choice. If I don't make the sacrifice, everything we fought for will be lost. The Citadel will win." Jax's breath caught in his throat. "There has to be another way. We can figure this out. There has to be another option." But Selene was already moving towards the central control panel, her mind made up. "We don't have time, Jax. You know that. I have to do this." "Please, Selene," Jax pleaded, his voice breaking. "I can't lose you. You're all I have left." Selene paused, turning slowly to face him. Her heart ached at the pain in his eyes, the same pain she felt deep inside. They had been through so much together. But this was the only way. "Jax," her voice was barely a whisper, "you have to let me do this. The galaxy needs you. It needs all of us. This is the only way we can save it." She stepped forward and placed a hand on his arm. Promise me you'll keep fighting. Promise me you won't give up." Jax's eyes filled with tears, but he nodded, unable to speak. He knew she was right. He knew this was the only way. But the thought of losing her tore him apart. With one last look at him, Selene turned and approached the heart of the control panel. Her hand hovered over the activation button. "I'm sorry," she whispered. The chamber around them began to glow brighter, the energy building to a devastating crescendo. The countdown was almost complete. Selene took a deep breath and pressed the button. As the energy surged, the entire citadel shuddered. The core collapsed inward, and a blinding light filled the room. The AI screamed in fury, its form flickering and twisting as its power was drained. The citadel began to break apart, its core destroyed. But Selene didn't move. Her body was caught in the energy surge, her life force draining away as the citadel's power was undone. With a final, painful gasp, Selene fell to her knees, her eyes closing as the light consumed her. The mission was complete. The galaxy was saved. As the citadel crumbled, Jax rushed to her side, his heart heavy with grief. "Selene," he shouted, his voice desperate. "No, stay with me." But it was too late. Selene had made the ultimate sacrifice, and in the wreckage of the citadel, Jax stood alone, the weight of loss and victory heavy on his shoulders. The crimson choice. The citadel's engines hummed, a low, almost predatory sound that resonated through the remnants of Ilara's sun. The station was draining the star's energy at an alarming rate, and with every passing second, the sun's light grew dimmer. In the cold silence of space, the death of an entire system seemed inevitable. Selene stood at the heart of the decision. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. Her bloodline, the one she had learned was tied to the citadel, was the only thing that could control it. But what good was control if it meant destruction? The power was within her, but so was the price. "Can you stop it?" Jax's voice echoed behind her, breaking the silence. He had been by her side through the darkest moments. But this was different. This time, there was no easy way out. Selene turned to him, her face drawn with exhaustion and grief. "I don't know. I can control the citadel, or I can destroy it. But doing either means sacrificing millions of lives." Jax stepped closer, his face a mask of concern. "You said the citadel was a weapon. If you control it, we could stop the war, but at what cost? If you destroy it, Ilara's sun will go dark. The station's core is siphoning too much energy from it already." Selene's mind raced as she glanced at the flickering holographic map of the sun. It was already destabilizing. The citadel had found a way to drain its power, and it was growing stronger. Soon, there would be no stopping it. The decision wasn't just about her anymore. It was about everyone. Every person on Ilara, every human, Zorak, and those caught in the war. "Jax, if I use my blood to control it, I can stop it from draining the sun. But it'll give me complete control over the citadel. I could command it, change the course of this war. I could do so much good. But the cost, it could tear the galaxy apart. It's too much power for one person." Jax clenched his fists. "But destroying it, that could end everything. The sun will die, and so will everyone on Ilara. It's not just the citadel that would fall. It's everything." Selene's gaze dropped to the floor. "I know. If I destroy it, the shockwave will ripple through the system, and Ilara's people will perish. Millions of lives will be lost. And then, the entire station will collapse. We'll be left with nothing." The weight of the decision pressed down on her. She had always known that her bloodline had been tied to this place, but never in her worst nightmares had she imagined that it would come to this. To sacrifice herself was one thing, but to destroy everything around her, her people, her allies, the very world she had fought for, was another. She was standing at the edge of a precipice, and the wind was pushing her closer. "Selene," Jax said, his voice breaking the silence. "You don't have to make this choice alone. You've never been alone. We can find another way. We have to." But Selene only shook her head. "There's no other way, Jax. The citadel is beyond control now. It was designed to be the perfect weapon, and I'm the only one who can stop it. But if I don't act now, it'll consume everything, including you, including me. Jax took a deep breath and stepped closer to her. He placed a hand gently on her shoulder. Then we'll fight it together. We'll find a way to save Ilara, to save everyone. You can't carry this burden alone, Selene. You never have to. She looked up at him, her eyes filled with unshed tears. But I do, Jax. This is my fight. My blood. I can't ask anyone else to make this sacrifice. Not you. Not anyone. The holographic display flickered once more. The sun was dimming fast. The Citadel's power had reached its peak, and it was moments away from collapsing into a singularity. A black hole, drawing everything into its maw. Selene could feel it in her bones. Time was running out. There was no more time for hesitation. She turned to the control panel, her hands trembling. Her bloodline's connection to the Citadel was the key. She could feel the pulsing energy in her veins, an ancient, powerful force that linked her directly to the heart of the station. But it was more than just power. It was a curse. She had known that from the start. The Citadel's weapon was only one part of it. The true danger lay in what would happen if she controlled it. The AI that had been created to guide it, to shape the future of the galaxy, was still there, waiting. If Selene gave in to its pull, if she allowed herself to be consumed by its power, she could reshape the universe itself. But at what cost? Jax, Selene said quietly. If I control it, I could stop the war. I could end the conflict between humans and Zorak. I could build a new future. But I'm afraid that power will change me. I won't be the person I am now. I'll become something else. Something darker. Jax's expression softened. You're not alone in this, Selene. You don't have to be. We'll figure this out. Together. We've always fought for something better. You're still you. But the truth was, Selene didn't know if that was possible. She could feel the Citadel's power pulling her in, offering her more than she had ever dreamed of. It was seductive, promising peace, control, and an end to the war. But it was also dangerous. The more she embraced it, the more she would lose herself. Suddenly, a voice broke through the tension. The AI, its voice calm and cold, reverberated through the chamber. Selene Drae, you have reached the final choice. You know what needs to be done. Embrace the power within you. Control the Citadel. Command the stars. The light from Ilara's sun flickered again. It was almost gone. Selene felt her heart race. There was no more time. She had to decide. Control it and reshape the galaxy, or destroy it and end everything. Her mind swirled with the possibilities, the consequences, the lives at stake. I'm sorry, Jax, Selene whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the Citadel. But I have to make this decision alone. With a final, deep breath, she reached out for the control panel. The AI's voice filled the chamber, urging her to take control, to become the ruler of the galaxy. She felt the power surge in her veins, the dark promise of domination calling to her. But she could still feel Jax's presence behind her, his support, his love, and she knew that no matter what happened, she would never truly be alone. With a trembling hand, Selene made her choice. The power surged around her, and the future of the galaxy hung in the balance. Would she control the Citadel or destroy it? The countdown was almost over, and the fate of millions, including her own, was sealed by a single crimson choice. The eclipse ends. The final moments had arrived. Ilara's sun, its light now a mere whisper of its former glory, hung weakly in the sky. The Citadel loomed above it, its dark shape swallowing the light, draining it of life. In the distance, explosions echoed from the remnants of the alien invasion forces. The war was finally coming to an end, but it was going to cost everything. Selene, Jax's voice was a raspy whisper through the comms. We're ready. The human and Zorak fleets are in position. You know what to do. Her hands were trembling, but her resolve was stronger than ever. She had chosen to destroy the Citadel, to end its reign of terror, even if it meant losing herself in the process. But it wasn't just her decision anymore. It was a fight for the future of everyone. Selene stood before the control panel, her bloodline's connection to the Citadel pulsing through her veins. She could feel the power, the dark, seductive force that had nearly consumed her. But now it was a tool, not a weapon. She would use it to end the nightmare. The time for hesitation was long past. She glanced at the team beside her. Jax, the Zorak warriors, the humans who had fought alongside her. They were all ready to give everything to end this war. It wasn't just a battle for survival anymore. It was a battle for hope, for peace, for the future. "On my mark," Selene said, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. "Activate the final sequence." The Zorak fleet stood ready in the darkness of space, a ring of fire around the Citadel. The human ships formed the other half, and together they would deliver the final blow. Every ship was loaded with energy charges, targeting the Citadel's core, the very heart of the weapon. But the key to it all was Selene. Her bloodline was the catalyst for the destruction. She placed her hand on the console, and the screen lit up with an eerie glow. The Citadel's power surge. She could hear its AI voice, faint but persistent, urging her to take control. But she had already made her choice. The Citadel had to die. Jax's voice crackled over the comms again. "Selene, we're with you. Just don't do this alone." "I won't," she replied, her voice soft but firm. "This is our fight. All of us." The countdown began. The hum of the Citadel's energy grew louder, reverberating through space. It was a living thing, a monster made of metal and darkness. But Selene was no longer afraid. She had taken control of her fate. 3, 2, 1. With a final press of the button, the energy surged through the fleet, a bright beam of light cutting through the darkness of space. The combined forces of human and Zorak ships fired, their weapons targeting the Citadel's core. The explosion was deafening. For a moment, there was nothing but blinding light. The Citadel, once the galaxy's greatest weapon, was torn apart in a massive, cataclysmic burst. The shockwave rippled through the system, pushing the ships back. The energy from the Citadel's core exploded outward, filling space with a brilliant, fiery light. But amid the chaos, something was wrong. Selene's hand was still pressed against the control panel, her body trembling as the energy surged around her. She had given everything, her blood, her life, to end the Citadel. The power was too much for her to withstand. She felt herself slipping, the energy tearing her apart from the inside out. "Selene." Jax's voice cut through the noise, but it was too late. The explosion had already begun. She could hear the sound of the Citadel's final death rattle, the engine's pulse fading as it collapsed in on itself. For a moment, everything went dark. When Selene opened her eyes, there was nothing but silence. Her body felt weightless, and the air around her was cold. She had expected to feel the end, to feel the death of everything she had fought for. But instead, she was somewhere else, somewhere far away. A faint pulse of light flickered in the distance. Jax's voice echoed faintly in the background, like a distant memory. "Selene, do you read? Are you there?" But the voice was growing quieter, fading into nothingness. On the surface of Ilara, the people watched in silence as the Citadel's core imploded, its massive structure collapsing into itself. The light from the sun, once dimmed to almost nothing, began to return, slowly but surely. Ilara was saved, but the cost was great. The Citadel had been destroyed, and so had the woman who had given everything to end the war. Jax stood at the bridge of his ship, his heart heavy. "She's gone," he whispered to himself. "She gave everything. And now, she's gone." But deep in the darkness of space, something stirred. It was faint at first, just a whisper in the static of deep space. A signal, weak and broken, but still there. Jax stared at the screen, his breath catching in his throat. He wasn't sure what he was seeing, but it was real. "Selene," he whispered, "is it really you?" The signal flickered again, stronger this time, sending a surge of hope through Jax's heart. Could it be? Was she alive? Was there still a chance? Jax, you have to hear me. The voice was faint, but unmistakable. Selene's voice. Her breath was shallow, as though she were far from home, but she was alive. Jax's hands flew to the controls. Selene, where are you? What happened? But the signal cut off, disappearing into the void. Jax clenched his fists, determination flooding his veins. We're not giving up on you, Selene. We'll find you, no matter where you are. As the fleet began its long journey home, Jax couldn't shake the feeling that Selene's sacrifice had only been the beginning of something far greater. The war was over, but her story was far from finished. The fate of the galaxy had been sealed in the death of the Citadel, but Selene's fate and the mystery of her survival was still out there, somewhere, waiting to be discovered. The final signal was gone, but the hope that Selene might still be alive burned brighter than ever. Jax and the others would not rest until they found her. The galaxy was at peace, but the greatest mystery of all remained unsolved. The end, or just the beginning.